In today's video, I'm going to tell you what is going to be the well-deserved reward for 2020. Because I recently saw a video by fellow content creator QuicklyBaby where I just had to shake my head and say, wow, nice clickbait, dude. You really clickbaited your audience right there. Because in his video, he said that the Aufklarungspanzer Panther is going to be the well-deserved reward for 2020. I'm not saying that this cannot be the case for 2021, but sadly enough, it is not how Wargaming's development cycle is working. And this is what I'm going to show you right now. So, as you actually know, right, if you are following Super Test news very frequently or as I do in depth, you know that Wargaming has the Super Test. And after the Super Test comes the test server, and after the test server, well, we have the live server. Point is, when a tank newly comes to the Super Test until it gets released quite afterwards, usually it takes quite some time. And this is my main point why QuicklyBaby is saying that the Aufklarungspanzer Panther is going to be the well-deserved reward for 2020 is completely bogus. Because Wargaming is not going to release a tank 1 week ago and then it's going to reintroduce it for everybody without proper testing in less than 2 weeks. Now, what are examples which are, well, supporting my statement that Wargaming is not going to do that? Well, let's have a look at the CS52 cycle, a premium tank which very recently got released. And you know what is funny? The time when I did the video about its preview, it was 5 months ago. When it was released, well, this is when I did my first impression video, that was 2 months ago. And 5 minus 2 gives us a difference or a delta of months of 3 months. Now, that means that for Wargaming to release the CS52, it took them around 3 months. Important is to point out that the CS52 list was a tank which was incredibly rushed. Why do I say that? Because we all CCs, everybody, QuicklyBaby, AEG, Desk Games, everyone usually gets the tanks a little bit earlier, where we have an NDA, where we are not allowed to do videos on them, stream those tanks, but we are allowed to play them and prepare our content. This was not the case for the CS52, where quite frankly, it just came and yeeted everybody. We just had to immediately do our content. What is another example where we have a 3-month period right in between? That was the T42 the boys tank, basically the running advertisement of Wargaming. And here you have to say that 4 months ago, the T42 tank was introduced into the Super Test, where I did a video about it and called it the M47 prototype on Tier 8. Now, 1 month ago, the T42 the boys tank was released, and once again, here VCCs did not even have a testing time. Interestingly enough, even though Wargaming could have given us a T42 in advance before giving it out with the skins. However, I do want to point out with the T42, there was a little bit of an issue in between. Why? Because there was an agreement with Twitch themselves or Amazon themselves that nobody except the company was allowed to talk about the T32 in advance or about the boys agreement. But point is, once again, there was a 3-month period in between release into the Super Test and release to the public audience. You want to see another example? Well, T77. This was basically a normal tank. Like, there was no strings attached. We had time to prepare with the content for this tank. So, yeah. 4 months ago, it came to the Super Test at the same time as the T42, by the way. And, well, 1 month ago, it got released. And that is, as you can see, for 1 month, I did my first impression video. My first impression videos are at day 1. This tank is released when I play 2 to 3 rounds in this tank and give off, as the name says, my first impression. Now, let's have a look once again at the in-depth preview time when the Aufklarungspanzer was released. 6 days ago. So again, if we start to notice a pattern here, it will most likely not get reintroduced in just 2 weeks as the well-deserved reward. Especially as the Aufklärungspanzer in its current iteration on Tier 7 is far from what it should have been, and a lot of people which I talked to agree that right now it is just an insanely bad version of what we used to have. So I'm highly doubt that Wargaming is going to do anything about that, and I'm still surprised that Wargaming didn't release the Tier 8 version like they did with the ISU 152K. However, I do want to point out that chances are high that this tank might be the well-deserved reward for 2021. Now, what tank is it going to be for this year? That's what I teased you at the beginning and maybe also clickbaited some of you. Now, here I can just give you a very, 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 very easy thing. Because usually when Wargaming is introducing a new tank to, well, the public, they are adding a description to the tank. Obviously, because for the super testers, they don't give a shit about the description. It is not necessary. It's not necessary to test the inscription. So yeah, let's have a look at the little old micro patch which happened yesterday, and we will see the description of the M24E2 Super Chaffee tank has been added. So yeah, funny. Why should Wargaming add a description to the Super Chaffee? Well, most likely because Wargaming is planning to introduce it finally as a well-deserved reward. Now, and this is why I quickly just want to go through the stats of the Super Chaffee and give you some input and make you see what this tank is basically all about. Well, yeah, it is basically a little bit like the old Chaffee. However, there are some things missing, obviously. It's great for your range and it's very good gun handling in general. It still has good gun handling, but the accuracy is absolutely atrocious. So without just going into the stats over here, I will gladly show you the different tanks we have here in the repertoire. And I wanted to take the A46 because it was a recent introduced premium tank. We have the Type 64, which is considered to be the most overpowered tier 6 light tank. And we have the T52, which is the first tank which was introduced as the well-deserved reward, especially with the 3D old D style. Now, as you can probably see already, the Super Chaffee is going to be a pretty decent DPM tanker right here. 1725 is a little bit more than a T52, which is known to have a pretty decent DPM, but it's not going to catch on to the Type 64 because Type 64 simply has too much DPM. However, base penetration is also pretty decent with 120, a lot better than what the shitcan A46 can offer, which used to be a pretty decent tank, but now it isn't. Next up, the gun handling, and here we will see where this tank is going to shine. 0.10, 0.10, 0.10 for moving dispersion, which is very good. Only during turret dispersion, the Type 64 and the T52 are going to be better. Point will be, though, that this will roughly equalize itself. So 0.12 and 0.08 for moving and turret accuracy is going to be more or less the same as 0.1 and 0.1 for turret and moving accuracy. Point is, though, that the Super Chaffee has a far quicker aim time with 1.7 seconds, and the Type 64 with 2.1 seconds, and the T52 with 1.8 seconds. So yeah, in total, yes, it is true that the Super Chaffee will have pretty decent gun handling, except for the accuracy with 0.44, which is going to suck. That's just how it is. We can't change that. About the mobility, here we once again have a little bit of a mixed bag. It is slow, but that is how the Super Chaffee used to be. It wasn't a fast, light tank. However, it has a very good HP per ton ratio. It has better than what the Type 64 has better than what the Trashcan A46 has, and only the TT52 is faster in that regard, because, well, that was its memo, to be as fast as possible. Now, still, it's pretty decent. Obviously, the top speed will suck a little bit and will probably push the Super Chaffee into more of a passive scouting role, where you took a little bit more passive, more defensive position where you start to spot. But it's still okay, like you can work with that, especially when your gun is a lot better than, again, like for example the A46, which has a better top speed. Most importantly, obviously, will be, however, camouflage. Here, yeah, it's not that good. Makes sense, it is a tall vehicle. It's a pity though. The biggest issue I'm personally having is that it's only having 380 meters of view range. 400 was back in the days. You can't give that to a tier 6 anymore. But 390, rivaling the Type 64, could have been a nice little added bonus. However, Wargaming didn't do that, so the Super Chaffee is not going to be the best spotter. Nevertheless, I do want to say that you are able to get a pretty decent spot rate with a good crew, and for example, when you're using coated optics in this slot, you're using vents in this slot and a rammer, you can already see we can pump up these spotting range to 423 meters. If we now add some good old Coca-Cola, which for some reason isn't tracked, screw you program, I guess we are not doing this right now. But the point is, I know from 380 meters tank that they are able to achieve more than 445 meters of fuel range. And if not, again, you can still say, I don't care, I'm going to take the binus in the spotting slot, bada boom, bada bam, and you have a very, very potent passive scout still. Yeah, so, as I said before, if I am wrong, and it's going to be the Aufklarungspanzer Panther for this year, which again, I'm 99% sure it's not going to be, I'm going to give away 2 tier 8 premium tanks on my live stream. Streaming Wednesdays at www.twitch.tv/RagingRaptor, as well as Thursdays. So don't forget to follow. Nice. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If so, let me know in the comment section below. Again, there is obviously no hate against Quickie Baby. I just wanted to say my memo, say that it was simply wrong, and probably was a very, very good way for him to do a little bit of a clickbait magic right here. And that is why I decided to do exactly the same amount of effort into his thumbnail to show you truly that, yeah, I can do that too. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for actual good World of Tanks news. And as always, have a great weekend and have a great time. Cheers, and let me know if you like the editing style.